yesterday Kawhi Leonard has his first load management game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, my God, they just get stomped by a Dallas team who got eviscerated, could not stop the Lakers 2 nights before. Obviously, still playing in LA. They have 27 points at the half, right? So you're down 77 to 27 at the half. 77-27. I get that it's just one game. I get that the Clippers were 2-0 and they sat their best player, but I mean, you become like the laughing stock of the league when that happens. If you walk into Clippers practice today, LaVar Arrington, what do you say?
I think they have to adopt the approach that this is a team that has had so much weight, so much pressure put on them to be something that everybody has wanted, or that is a Clippers fan or a Clippers enthusiast has wanted to see happen, which is this team get to the next level. And so if I'm talking to the Clippers, I think that they really have to get to a place of where they're comfortable and confident with what their approach is, and understand that talent-wise, they are definitely good enough to be able to accomplish what they're wanting to accomplish. But they have to have a singular focus, and within that singular focus, you can have many focuses, but they have to really, really dial in what their singular focus is as a group, and they have to marry to it. They have to commit to the fact that this is what they're going to do, and if we're going to do it, this is how we got to go about doing it, and we can't deviate from the plan. And I think they were largely in part doing that last season for a long time, and then I just think that it got very combative, it got very confrontational internally with them, and then the whole hitting of COVID and the way it impacted one of their star players. I mean, mentally and emotionally speaking, Paul George was different.
I think they're going to have to get rid of Lou Williams. I mean, if you look yesterday, he only played 9 minutes. He was part of that first half kind of debacle. I think something's going on. Remember, he signed a contract only $8 million a year, and people thought, man, you could have gotten a lot more on the open market. Now they have Reggie Jackson getting way more minutes than him. That was a trade made when everybody was hurt last year. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's something going on there where Lou was not. Normally, you would think when Lou Williams, hey, we don't have Kawhi, bro, you're going to get shots today, right?
Right.
But he hadn't been the same since the wings,
right?
Yeah, the lemon pepper wings incident, and they haven't looked at him the same. And it's
like Haskins, right? I mean,
yes.
Honestly speaking, I find it interesting. Why would you not think that people don't fool with you when you show them you don't fool with them, right? I mean, let's be honest here. Why should I have an affinity for my teammate that felt as though what he was doing was more important than us? Right?
It's a great point.
So
it's a great. I would say for Lou Williams, Lou's probably take is like, look, this is who I've always been. I've never deviated.
Doesn't make it right. There's a lot of people.
I didn't say it is. Yeah, I'm just saying from his perspective, like, yo, look, I've been in the league for 10 years. Everybody knows who I am and how I roll. And you sign me, and now all of a sudden I'm supposed to be somebody different. Like I show up and I get buckets. That's who I am. And yeah, apparently they do want him to be somebody else, and he's not willing to play along.
Well, I think if that's the response to it, and that's the truth of it, then he does have to go, because that becomes toxic. That's what you just said is a toxic way of what it would be. Because to me, if you're doing something that is compromising yourself and your teammates and the season and the league, then to say that it is what it is because that's who I am, that's who I've always been, and that's who I'm going to be, you're basically saying that I don't have to be responsible. I don't have to accept the duties of and the accountability of what everybody else is doing. I'm going to be me. And if that's the truth, that is a cancer. And you know what happens when cancer is left untreated. We all know.
And now he sprained his left wrist or whatever, but he just didn't seem into it when he was in it. So that whole part to it is it's really fascinating though on what happens with the Clippers over the next couple of weeks here in reaction to this, right? Like if it's really just a, hey, we just no-showed and they hit everything and we weren't into it. It was a Sunday. Dudes were into fantasy football. It doesn't make it acceptable, but it does make it explainable.
It's an embarrassing moment.
It's embarrassing. That's an embarrassing one, right?
That's an embarrassing
down 50
moment.
at the half?
Yeah.
At the half? That's hard to do. I don't know how you.
How do you justify that as a pro? Like you're a professional and you have an elite group. How do you, and as the coach, how do you make sense of that? You know, because this is a big moment for, and I wanted to bring this up when we bring on Rick, but this is a big moment for Tyronn Lue. Like, and if you think about it, he had great success in Cleveland, built his reputation, got a championship. What are you going to be able to do? What are you going to say if you can't bring together this talented group that you have in LA and possibly accomplish at the same level when you're sitting there listening to how Doc Rivers was trying to handle things and ultimately him trying to make guys conform and be more responsible led to his departure. You know, what do you do?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Ty Lue handles. I mean, this is really what you get paid for, right? Is how you handle adversity, how you handle the personalities. The X and Owen obviously becomes more part of the gig once you get to the postseason. But everyone seems to know that the chemistry issues are
always there.
What led to the downfall of the Clippers last year, as opposed to Lakers, who, you know, I think there were some moments there where their chemistry could have been called into question in the bubble. But they figured it out, and they ended up having an unbelievably united team. It wasn't the best team in terms of ability to score. It wasn't a perfectly complete team, but they played great team complementary basketball and won based upon their defense and toughness and chemistry. And obviously LeBron and AD.
Their length was too much for everybody.
Right. And so you put all those together, and you end up being an NBA champion. The Clippers have, you know, look like, if you look at that roster, again, first game of the season, you like what you see, but it's these type of things which may lead you to believe there's more issues under the hood. All right, Ric Bucher is going to join us upcoming next. How big an issue is one game in December, third game of the year, but down 50 at the half for the Clippers? Plus, what does he see from the Lakers early on? Can the Warriors do anything to try and get away from what feels like a sinking ship? Let's welcome him in. You see both of these guys together at times on Speak for Yourself on Fox Sports 1. He's Ric Bucher, Fox Sports 1's NBA analyst, also writes for Bleacher Report. And Buch, what do you say about the Clippers' complete no-show yesterday against the Dallas Mavericks?
They are who we learned they are in the bubble.
Oof.
It is, if you had any question about the leadership factor with the team, I thought that yesterday confirmed that they haven't fixed that problem, with or without Kawhi. Yeah, you got an early start. Yeah, today after. Well, I'm a little confused. Paul George was telling me that Saturday was Christmas, and I would have sworn that Friday was Christmas. But to me, look, we've seen this happens all the time. Games get out of hand. You miss open shots, especially in today's NBA. The ability to knock down threes. You got one team that's wants to prove something because they've had a couple of bad losses. You got another team that is at home and it's an early start and they're feeling themselves a little bit and they just don't have it. But the complete collapse and the inability to have that one moment where you go, you know what, we're not going to accept this. We're going to dig in. We're going to try to get something done. I'm not saying that they would have won, but the Clippers never had that moment. They never had that moment of resistance. And to me, that goes to the heart of leadership. And if you thought that Tyronn Lue was going to have a different effect on this team than Doc Rivers, you found out otherwise. And I don't want to make too much of one game, But to me, if I had suspicions that they really hadn't fixed their root problem from the bubble, and that the bubble exposed something that was a true Achilles heel. And yesterday just confirmed my suspicions that thing has not been fixed.
It's a great point you make. And guys, let me kind of like further it. I actually think in many ways, COVID and, this entire last 12 months it's happened in all businesses, right? Like retail is feels like it's dead. Well, it was dying anyway. Restaurants have been crushed by this thing, right? The truth is that the restaurants were it's always been a hard business, and it's been made more difficult recently because of DoorDash and those types of, right? So what's happened in business has only kind of sped up. Movie theaters, right, may not come back online as things are going directly to your home, directly to a streaming service. All these things are getting exposed. It's not problems that arise because of the bubble, but they get made more pronounced. That said, how would you go about fixing it if you're the Clippers?
I don't know that there's an easy fix, because it really comes down to look, you can have all the team meetings you want. You can have the kumbayas. Ultimately, it has to be a little bit like you have to have players. You have to have star players that you don't want to disappoint. I hate to reference The Last Dance, but whether the guys, the rest of the Bulls liked Jordan or didn't like Jordan, you heard him say it. Judd Bushler said it definitively. Like, we didn't want to let him down. I believe that the Warriors, as bad as they are right now, when they see an opportunity to win, they don't want to let Steph Curry down. The guys that you are the stars on the team, you don't want to let them down. You don't want them to be embarrassed. You don't want to be embarrassed yourself, but there's also a feeling like we want to play for this guy because we know how good he is and how good he makes us. And I'm just not sure there's anybody like, do the Clippers look at their leadership of Kawhi and Paul George and go, you know what, I don't want to see that guy lose. I want to play hard for that guy. I'm just not sure that feeling exists on the Clippers. And I don't know that there's a guy there that they feel that way about. So there is no easy solution. As I said at the beginning, they are who they are. Unless they have a major transformation, I believe that's going to be a continuing problem. They're good enough to beat a lot of teams, but do they have that it factor, that it guy that is going to carry them there, and that they're all going to play for and that they're going to rally around? I don't see that guy.
Slick, when you look at this team, and you just mentioned the makeup of the lack of leadership, I look at it from the perspective of how Tyronn Lue was there last year as an assistant. So he's elevated. You saw something in what you felt his leadership qualities could be that could possibly bring, unite these guys together as a solution. You didn't go to a whole nother staff. You promote it from within. Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to understand if there is a lack of leadership by your big gun star players, and you promote Ty Lue as the head coach, isn't that a failure on a higher level than the player and the coach then?
Yeah, I'm with you. LaVar, I did not think that was going to be a solution. There was somebody who was there, present, and I felt that was a missing piece last year on the coaching staff. It's one thing you elevate Ty Lue. That's fine. But what you were missing was the Tom Thibodeau to Doc Rivers in Boston. That guy who was going to be the bad cop to your good cop. The guy who was going to demand certain things. They didn't add that to the roster. You could elevate Ty Lue because of his relationship with Kawhi and Paul, but you had to have that guy that was going to demand discipline and excellence when nobody else was. And I'd say this too, and this is what makes it really difficult. And we've seen it with plenty of teams. You have those you can't say no to superstars, right? So if they want to come play for you. If you've got a chance to get them, you get them. But can they close the deal? Are they, especially if you get enough talent together where people look at you and say you're supposed to win a championship? Are your stars, are your best players, your hardest workers, and the guys that can lead you there? That's the question. And I just, I feel as if what we've learned about Kawhi in winning in Toronto and San Antonio is that he might have been the best player in both of those instances, but not the leader of either of those teams. And that was the mistake we made, maybe in part because he's so quiet. We thought he was one of those silent types, the silent leader.
Right.
The reality is, he wasn't the guy that was the driving force of those teams, and the Clippers are finding that out.
I'll be interested to see how they react to all of this and like what the bounce back is. I feel like there's something up there with Lou Williams where, and I know he sprained his wrist or whatever, but where there's like he doesn't feel like I'm sure he's not an early game sort of guy, but it doesn't feel like he's down for I would have thought with no Kawhi, he would have come out there just firing yesterday, and he looked like a guy who had a million places he wanted to be, and Staples was not atop that list. Ric Bucher joining us. Let's check in on James Harden. He has played one game. He did drop 44 and 17 in an overtime loss to Portland. So clearly, no matter what we think of his physical shape, he's in bucket getting shape. What's his status look like in Houston?
Well, the problem is that with games like the one that he gave Portland, it only makes the Rockets more insistent on getting the full bag for him. What I was told is that they want something along the lines of an Anthony Davis deal for James Harden, which is, 2-3 young talented players and 3 first-round picks is what ultimately the Pelicans got for Anthony Davis, and including guys like all-star material like Brandon Ingram. So that is the challenge. The price is not going down with wins like that. You also have a brand new GM, Raphael Stone, who is trying to make his mark and doesn't want his first move to be 10 cents on the dollar for a star of Harden's magnitude. So I still hear that if there's a team that's going to make a move, it's going to be Philadelphia. But I was also told yesterday, don't expect something to happen anytime soon because they're not lowering their price at this point. I've had executives tell me, look, you could make a case he's the best offensive player in the game right now. So why would you not try to get everything you can for him if indeed you're going to acquiesce and move him?
Ric Bucher is our guest here on the Dan Patrick Show on Fox Sports Radio. All right, what do you make of what we've seen from the Nets so far?
I thought coming in that they would be the best offensive team that in the league. I mean, they're just a fright, especially the way Kevin Durant is playing. Kyrie seems to be on one too, but I just don't know where's their defensive presence, who's the driving force at that end, who organizes them at that end. I don't see that guy.
Did you see the news today about Spencer? For people who are just joining us, Spencer did when he partially tore an ACL. So.
I did, but he's an interesting character. I mean, during the off season, they were looking to move him. So I don't see him as an essential piece of the chemistry or the equation. I'm sorry to see it, but ultimately that doesn't change a whole lot for them when it comes to again, it's where's the bar set? I don't know. We would have had this conversation about the Clippers if they weren't considered the favorite to win the championship last year. and people are still looking at them thinking, okay, will they play for redemption this year? It's the same with the Nets. The Nets, at the very least, are supposed to be in the conference finals, if not coming out of the East, is what the projection is. And I just don't know that defensively they're good enough. Offensively, I think they're going to be a terror. Regular season, I think they're going to be a terror. Postseason, unless something changes with them defensively, and just also the vibe. I'd like to feel like with everything about them, Kyrie being able to rehab his image, KD coming back from an injury that took a year from him. I wish I felt like they were more joyous in the way that they played. I mean, they could be such a great story.
I know.
And yet they're playing with like this
Anger.
chip.
Yeah.
I'm wondering where it came. Like, where's that coming from? I mean, you're going to have opportunity to play with anger. You're going to have things that are going to tick you off. But if it's just a general dissatisfaction with whatever, it's a long season to not find the joy in what should be a joyous situation for the Nets right now.
All right, last thing. Warriors lost in all the footballs. They did beat the Bulls yesterday by 1.
Yeah.
But that's after 26 and 39-point losses to playoff teams. I don't love the I understand the Clay thing set them back substantially, but I don't like the rest of the construction because they don't have other guys that can handle and create, and that's really what Steph needs because he's as good or better off the ball as he is on the ball.
Yep.
Is there any fixing the Warriors this season?
I don't see it just because, and you make a good point about not having other playmakers, and Draymond Green, whenever he gets back, will help that. But what Draymond Green can't fix is that they used to be a very high IQ team.
Yes, and Steph mentioned this after their second loss that they needed to improve their basketball IQ, which doesn't improve mid-season for an NBA team.
No, and especially because and Steve has already conceded. He's like, I'm just going to simplify everything. It's not like we have a system that these guys will eventually get. He's like, oh, I got guys who can't play the way we are used to playing, so we're going to have to play a different way. And the problem is that actually the way Steph plays compounds that because Steph at his best plays kind of a reckless game. And if everybody else is playing buttoned up, you can live with the ups and downs of that. If you ask him to play an uber efficient game, particularly offensively, you take away some of the magic of Steph Curry.
Butte, great stuff. Happy New Year. Hope you guys had a great Christmas, and we will definitely talk and see you soon.
All right, Slicks.